Welcome, everybody, to the Half Geek Half Human podcast. I'm really excited today to introduce Jennifer and Mitchell Poythress of Rabbit Hole Marketing. And Rabbit Hole is a marketing agency that specializes in the Metaverse. Mitchell and Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we get too far into this, let's just start right at the top with just defining what the Metaverse is. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit and also touch on augmented and virtual reality?
Sure. Yeah. So starting with what the metaverse is. So it's not any one singular thing. It's not any one singular place. As it exists right now, the metaverse is comprised of a series of virtual worlds that parallel what we do in the real world. So eventually we're going to see all of these metaverses, all the different virtual worlds come together. But as it exists right now, it's a bunch of different virtual spaces where people can go and shop, work, socialize, play, all of these things that you would do in the real world, just in on a digital platform. So it's not any one place. When people say like, oh, I need to get into the metaverse, they're not talking about one centralized location yet. Eventually, we do see those kind of merging, and there are some companies that are working on those things already to make things go cross-platform and interoperable. But as of right now, it is just a collection of virtual worlds that kind of parallel what we do in the real world as well.
It feels like almost that people are still trying to figure it out a little bit, that it's like everybody's got their own little sandbox, and then like eventually we're going to figure out how all those sandbox can combine and into some big multi-metaverse. But I think that's for me especially, like I see all these different little segments, but I can't quite see the big picture of how it all works together. So I guess, what is the big picture? Like, what do you guys see as the big picture in the future of the metaverse?
Yeah, I think big picture is that like all these worlds connected into one. So some companies now that are really pushing that forward is like Ready Player Me with their avatar system. So you create an avatar with them that is available in any platform that has compatibility with Ready Player Me. So you can take your avatar from one platform to another to another. So the idea is that you never leave the metaverse. You move through the metaverse to different experiences. So your avatars follow you, all of your accessories follow you, no matter what you're playing. Right now, it's very scattered and disconnected, and
everyone's trying to do their own thing, and we're just going to see which ones kind of come out on top at the end of all of this. But that could be, years from now that we actually see everything be interoperable and things like that. But, we just had CES this last week, if you follow the Consumer Electronics Show, and we're seeing a lot more of people integrating together instead of being these like segmented virtual worlds. It does go into virtual reality and augmented reality. And what we'd like to make the distinction, though, is that the metaverse is not virtual reality, and virtual reality is not the metaverse, but it can exist in those ways. And Mitchell, if you want to just describe the differences between VR and AR, because we're seeing a lot more AR pop up now too.
Yeah. So like most people, I think nowadays kind of relate the metaverse to virtual reality, but it can be played on a phone. You can access the metaverse on your phone, your computer with keyboard and mouse. And now we're seeing a lot more augmented reality or like XR, right? That kind of is all encompassing for these different things. So virtual reality is like mostly virtual, right? Everything you're experiencing, everything you're seeing is in a virtual world. Whereas with augmented reality, you are augmenting the real world. So you still, usually with most headsets nowadays, we have what's called pass-through. So you have a headset on, which is obstructing your view, but you can see the real world from within the headset, and then you overlay that or augment it with, we've seen it in movies where they pop up ads as you walk past stores, or just playing games. I mean, we're seeing augmented reality laser tag, where, you enter a big room and it just, overlays different levels, and all the characters have cool attachments and stuff to them, but you actually see their real body too. So the main difference is virtual is fully virtual, and augmented is the real world with, augmented elements added on.
Right.
That's interesting, and I'll play slightly dumb here and say that I thought all things metaverse was virtual reality. So I didn't realize you could kind of enter this metaverse via just a mouse and keyboard or just on a desktop. So that's really really cool. And then you mentioned the Ready Player Me. Like, I was even talking to Anna Kate and Lee, our executive producer, before, and was just like, hey, as a guy who has read the book Ready Player One about 17 times, like I'm excited about this whole metaverse thing, because it seems like that's coming to life. And so when you mentioned that, I'm like, okay, so they see what's going on here. They're trying to make a way for this to work too. But anyway, Anna Kate, back over to you. Sorry, I just I'll geek out if you let me go too far on this.
This is really exciting because it's becoming, I think, from more of like a conceptual conversation to like in real life, like there are ways that, and this is a good way into your business also, kind of what you guys are doing with Metaverse as a service and some other things. But well, first of all, before we even talk about Rabbit Hole Marketing, where are you guys recording from today? What's in the background?
Yeah, sure. So we're actually at our virtual reality gaming arcade here in Franklin, Tennessee. So we do operate the largest VR gaming center in the Southeast. And we have what is called a free roam arena here, which is an expansion on our original location, downtown Nashville. It was really small. We had to come out to Franklin to get a little bit more space and open up our free roam arena. That's going to be a space that actually lets players walk around amongst each other in the real world, and it tracks them in the virtual world as well. So they're seeing each other one-to-one. But at the VR gaming arcade, we actually focus on putting people only into virtual reality experiences as of right now. Eventually, we could see some AR experiences and games coming through. But right now, we're purely virtual reality gaming here at the arcade, and that's primarily focused on multiplayer, social gaming, active gaming. So, we're not putting people on a couch and handing them a controller. They're up, moving around, working together as a team. Or we do get a lot of teams that come in and want to shoot each other. So we have a little bit of everything, and we try to kind of tailor our experiences based on people's skill level. If they've been in VR before, if they haven't been, if they're gamers, if they're not gamers, we have a little bit of everything for any type of customer that we have.
Cool. And when did you open up the arcade?
So we started in 2016 doing what we call on-the-go rentals. So we would take VR to corporate team building events and birthday parties and conventions and all this fun stuff, while we looked for a physical location for an arcade. So there were no arcades at the time, so we didn't really know kind of how it was going to work. Trying to get insurance for a VR arcade was fun. They're like, so bowling alley? We're like, no. Laser tag? No. Well, kind of. Not really. So we kind of paved the way for that. Just kind of stumbling through the process while we found a location. So in August of 2017, we opened our first location in downtown Nashville. We operated there till the end of 2021, where we were kicked out and they tore the building down, and now it's a 15-story apartment complex. So, but during that time, we opened our second larger location here in Franklin, Tennessee, in the Cool Springs area, and it's over 6,000 square feet of VR fun. So we opened that November of 2019, so just in time for the pandemic. Yep. So we're fortunate to have survived that and came out the other side, and things are doing really well now. And we're excited. Really what we offer here is an experience, and VR is the medium. So we really want to make sure that everybody comes in here, has a great time. So our team is very helpful with players and making sure they're having the best experience possible.
And I got to know, like, what in the world hit you guys one day where you're like, we're going to open up a VR arcade in Nashville? Like, there had to be something that encouraged you guys to do it. I got to know what it is.
Yeah. It was a lot of things that kind of led to it. So I used to work for a tour company in downtown Nashville for a while. And during that time, the rumblings of VR were starting to happen. Oculus had announced their first generation of headsets. And, at the time, it was just an idea. The technology wasn't there yet. But, I had this idea of a gaming arcade where you can come into. It was always like a warehouse, a massive warehouse where you can walk from one side to the other. And that was always always the vision, and we're still working towards that. But I moved from the tour company to a gaming company here in town called Overdog. So it was essentially a matchmaking app for gamers to find other gamers to play with. And so we did a little product design, a lot of community management. We would do live event activations with companies like Mountain Dew and Doritos and Subway and Molson Canadian and all these really cool, fun things. And also during that time, I'm telling these guys, man, VR is the future. Like, we really need to be, what can we do to be getting into this? And everybody always was kind of just like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's whatever. And that company ended up selling to a larger company in upstate New York, and the doors just kind of opened. It was like, well, we got to do something now. This new technology has released that would allow us to get at least a glimpse of this, massive warehouse scale VR. Like, let's go full steam ahead and make it happen. So that's when we started buying equipment and computers and kind of working out how it would work, how to get games. We have to license games for arcades. You can't just buy them like you would at home. So figuring out a way to secure licensing for games and start offering it while we looked for a physical location. So everything kind of just led to it. It was kind of just perfect timing.
So cool. And then, so when we were first introduced to you guys, it was under Rabbit Hole Marketing, which is your Metaverse marketing firm. So tell us how Rabbit Hole fits in with the arcade concept and kind of into your history.
Sure. Yeah. So the Rabbit Hole Marketing is just kind of a natural progression from the arcade business. We have developed over the years processes and systems and things like that are really tailored to first-time players. So through the years, we've had different companies reach out to us and say, you're a virtual reality company. Can you help us improve our VR game and make it suitable for location-based entertainment facilities? So that's the arcade is one portion of our business. The B2C concept is one arm of our business, but really what we're kind of moving to, and that's why we launched Rabbit Hole Marketing, is the consultations on existing FECs who want to add VR, VR arcade owners that want to open up in new cities, people who are developing VR content and want to make it accessible and easily used by first-time players. So that's the majority, I would say, of what we do now. And we have the insights and the experience to actually make these VR experiences good for first-time players, because we've seen tens of thousands of people come through the arcade. So it is a unique experience set, I would say, skill set that we have, because we've just seen so many people come in, go through the tutorial for the first time, get into a multiplayer game the first time. How are they interacting with each other when they see each other in the virtual world? The safety features that go along with that. If you're designing a game for a VR arcade, that involves punching or stabbing motions or anything like that, it's not super safe. We've learned a lot about age limits and like what experiences are good for little kids, what experiences are better for adults or teenagers. And then that has since progressed to companies that are developing VR training. So if a company is wanting to create a VR training module, but they need to deploy it to 500 or 1,000 people around the country who have maybe never seen a VR headset before, never touched a VR controller before, how do you make that something that they're going to really engage with and want to complete and go through, and not just get frustrated and be like, I can't do this, I'm just going to do something else. I'm going to get my training hours somewhere else or continuing education hours somewhere else. So that has then led to, us providing those consultation services, led to Rabbit Hole Marketing, and really doing the utility purposes of virtual reality and AR. Video games are great, and I think that industry is going to keep growing, but there are some actual practical uses for VR and AR moving forward.
And I would like to talk some about those practical uses, because I think that some of the maybe misconception with virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse is that it's all a game. And I think that so many people view it as just, oh, it's a game. You put on a headset, you play a game, you shoot your friends, you stab your friends, and which all sounds great. But but on a side, like, there is a way, that people can get involved and make money. And I've told some of my colleagues here at Atiba that I'm a DJ on the side. And so I have a friend that he's now started DJing events in the metaverse where people like they have this virtual club and people attend it via a virtual reality headset, and he plays for them and like they pay him to do that. I think that's really cool. But I guess one thing I wanted to talk about is that age thing you mentioned, and that the younger generation might be more or easier to get in the door on virtual reality and understand it. But what about the older demographic? Maybe some of these corporate clients that you're going after on the rabbit hole marketing side that maybe are a little bit slower to adopt. What's a way of maybe getting, I don't want to use a generation per se, but some of your older audience, what is a way of getting them to accept the metaverse and to accept virtual reality as an actual practical tool?
Sure. Well, we start with education for all of our virtual marketing clients. So the Rabbit Hole Marketing is a virtual marketing firm. So that's what we specialize in. We chose not to go with metaverse marketing as the term because metaverse as a buzzword is probably going to fade off over the next couple of years. So we don't want to be tied to that necessarily. What it is virtual marketing. You're using the virtual platforms that make up the metaverse to reach your target audiences. So our key thing is starting with education, even showing them what is possible. The older generations that you're mentioning, whether they be the consumers that they're trying to reach or the brands that we think that they could benefit from virtual marketing efforts, and then making it accessible. So we talked about earlier, it doesn't have to be VR, it doesn't have to be AR, it can be on your phone, it can be through a desktop PC. So accessibility is really key to getting the older generations to engage and interact with those things.
Yeah, I think a lot of the misconceptions that we battle even here in the arcade is that VR is for kids, right? Mm-hmm. People come in and they're like, you must do a lot of birthday parties. Yeah, but we do equally, if not more, team building events for adults and bachelor parties. And like VR is actually built for an older audience. Kids nowadays they're spoiled. They're growing up with it. They've got it good. So acceptance and kind of picking it up is going to just be innate with younger kids. It is going to be the older audiences that are going to be a little more resistant to it. But, like Jennifer said, making it accessible, letting them join on their phone, letting them join from a desktop and computer. Maybe there are other players in there that are in virtual reality, right. And that will allow them to kind of dip their toes in the water. And to kind of progress from there, then they can buy a VR headset and start experiencing, whatever it is, meetings, concerts, shopping in an actual virtual reality headset. But, for a lot of clients and a lot of people nowadays, it's all about accessibility. If you want to build a world, if you want to build an experience like Walmart does in Roblox, you need to offer a lot of ways for people to experience it. So, and as of right now, almost everybody has a cell phone, so not a VR headset. So that's going to be the main thing, is getting people on board with just getting VR headsets. And the price of them are coming down. They're becoming more accessible, unless you're in the location-based entertainment industry, and then it seems like they keep going up in price. But consumer headsets seem to be going down in price.
Yeah, for sure.
That was one of the things that we talked about just in the prep for this show, is that these headsets are becoming more accessible. And how do you think that will? I mean, it seems like the market is ever expanding as more education is happening and people are getting more comfortable with the concept of AR and VR. But what do you think the future looks like for gaming arcades like your guys' as it becomes more accessible for people at home?
Sure. Yeah. Actually, as the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Quest 2 have become more readily available to the home market, has helped our business because someone may have a headset at home, but 12 of their friends may not. So, they are getting the exposure to VR, and then they're bringing large groups in to see us at the arcade because they want to play together. That's why we really focus on the massive multiplayer, it being a social experience. So really the integration into the home market has been beneficial for our business. Now, I think we are going to have to continue evolving and changing the arcade concept to compete with that, as people, if all 12 of your friends do have VR headsets, maybe they don't have to come in here. But that's why we've added the free roam arena where you can physically walk around, and we're working more toward Mitchell's initial concept that he mentioned of a warehouse scale experience. So sure, you and all of your friends have headsets at home, but do you have a gigantic facility to like walk around in? The other way we kind of stay competitive is through exclusive content. So working with developers who create experiences for arcades, exclusively for arcades. So it's not something you can even get at your house. It's not built to be played at your house in your living room. It's meant to be played at a location where you have a lot of square footage and you're not going to hit the dog or the coffee table or anything like that. So, getting that exclusive licensing for games that you can't play at home, and just having a lot of headsets and a lot of space so we can do large group events as well, I think is kind of how we're competing with the home market. But again, it helps us as people get headsets of their own and try it, and it's not this big scary thing anymore. It's more accessible even in people's minds. I think they're willing to give it a try instead of being like, no, that's going to make me motion sick, which is a lot of what we got when we first opened.
Yeah.
And as soon as we can get people in a headset, they're
sold.
It.
Yeah, they're sold at that point. So we've seen a lot of the wow faces, as they first get in. So that's always one of the positives to this is seeing everybody's first time experience with VR and getting to offer them that. But yeah, like Jennifer said, the future of VR arcades, and if other locations aren't working towards this, they're going to fall behind, is free roam shared space VR, where you're literally back to back fighting zombies with your friends. So that's going to be the future, and hopefully there'll be more developers creating exclusive content for arcades. We have started creating our own exclusive content for our arcades, which we hope to in turn license to other arcades, which will allow them to continue to succeed and stay in the business, which is offering experiences with VR as the medium.
I could see AR experiences coming to LBE locations too, though. So say if you have an escape game, and it's not a virtual reality escape game, which we have offered those in the past too, but it's AR, so you're wearing some sort of glasses that overlay the real world and let you do challenges and puzzles that literally wouldn't be possible in the real world.
Like fighting a dragon, right, or slaying a troll, or
you're using a bow and arrow in AR, so you're seeing the bow and you're seeing the arrow, but it's actually just your controllers, but that's all overlaid through your equipment. You could definitely see AR experiences getting to be more mainstream in location-based entertainment facilities too.
And I think that's where when you're talking about people kind of falling behind maybe other arcades, that's maybe where they don't have that space, because I envision people in a big warehouse with the augmented reality set up to be able to do those things. I mean, you can't do that at your house. It's not possible. I mean, without breaking lamps, and I'm sure all the parents are thanking you guys for having the space to do this. But that's what's. It seems like that is kind of the future. And you talked about kind of practical ways to use the metaverse, use AR and VR in business. And I do want to kind of talk about some of those, because you mentioned Walmart with Roblox. My kids are huge into Fortnite right now, and I know they've done some of those experiences like in-game concerts and stuff, and like New Year, all these cool things. So I don't want to step too far away from the arcade concept, but into the business world concept. I guess, what are some things you see in the next few years in ways that business can monetize being in a virtual world?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on if you are an individual. So say like a DJ, like you were talking about, hosting concerts and selling tickets, versus a company. The revenue streams are going to be similar, but it just depends on what scale you're kind of at.
Yeah, so like the predominant way for like companies or individuals to make money nowadays is in creating like custom assets. So avatars. One of our former employees gets commissioned to create VR avatars for a game called VR Chat. So makes real money to create, a virtual product for somebody, which in the future, everybody's going to have a virtual avatar, and you're going to want it to be customizable. You could pay $100,000 to have a high quality avatar made for you, or you could have a free made avatar, so but everyone's going to have one, and you're going to want it to be customizable. So the other way to make money is creating accessories, so clothing, hats. Gucci in Roblox made Gucci bags and stuff, trying to get a younger audience into Gucci. So things like that are great ways for people to make money, as well as a lot of people are making experiences for games like Roblox. Roblox, you can create a virtual world, and so like when the Squid Games, when Squid Games came out, someone made a virtual Squid Games, and if you died, you could pay to get revived. And continue playing. So they spent Robux, which has a real USD exchange, to be revived. And these people were making a boatload of money off people playing this, Squid Games, Roblox game. So they're NFTs, most of this stuff. So like a lot of the clothing nowadays or accessories come with an NFT attached to it. So NFTs first kind of got started with artwork, and it kind of transitioned into music, and then now it's kind of transitioning into the gaming world with accessories. And for a long time with games like Call of Duty, you could like customize your guns and have cool designs and skins on them that could be glowing or gold. And now you're seeing NFTs of gun skins. You're seeing NFTs of shirts, and what makes an NFT valuable is that they're a limited commodity. Only so many of them are released. So when Gucci released all their bags on Roblox, only so many of them were released, right? So it makes them valuable. You want to get them while they're available because they won't be available for much longer. So NFTs are great. People always joke, well, I'll just take a screenshot and now I have it and I own it. And it's like, well, no, but you can't sell it. So you can't go and take a picture of the Mona Lisa and then turn around and now you own it and sell it. So NFTs are great because you own that product. And what makes it valuable is that it is like I said, a limited commodity. So there's only so many of them available. So if you want a cool Gucci bag, well, you got to find someone who has it and try to convince them to sell it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and just to build upon that, on how brands can make money, and companies can make money, I think that is more, a little bit you touched on what brands can do with the wearables and things like that. But there are so many options to integrate real world sales with virtual sales. So if you are in some kind of virtual world, and Samsung or Paris Hilton has a whole world of her own now, and you're clicking on the shop, that shop screen may say, okay, you can purchase this virtual wearable hoodie, and then right next to it is the option to purchase the real world hoodie. And it's not working in cryptocurrency. I guess some of them do, but if you're going to make it accessible, you need to be able to use USD, fiat currency, right now. And you can purchase the virtual version and then immediately go over and purchase the physical item to be shipped to your house. So there are ways to sell merchandise and things like that through these metaverses as well.
Ticketing for events. Like if you're going to see a DJ, they're going to charge you a ticket to come in and participate in that. So live events hosted in the metaverse, there's ways to make money there.
We've seen some really cool things with VIP areas. So using NFTs to create VIP experiences within virtual events. So yes, you paid the ticket price to get into the virtual event, but if you want to go into this exclusive VIP area within the virtual world, you have to own this specific NFT. So using NFT for ticketing, and NFTs for ticketing and things like that are all ways that generate revenue for these companies.
Well, we've even seen ones that will come into the real world. You buy an NFT pass or a membership or a subscription, and it gives you access to backstage pass in the real world. You go to a concert and you show them your NFT, and they'll let you backstage. You get the VIP treatment, both in the virtual world and the real world. So those are, what we've seen that have been really cool, great ideas for how to, make it worthwhile for somebody to want to get one.
Yeah, and make it more accessible too. You guys are really blowing my mind right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. There are so many possibilities that it's hard to wrap your head around, like, where do we go? What do we do? Like, that's what most of our conversations with the companies in 2022 are these marketing teams that are like, I'm hearing about the metaverse and there's buzz around this. what am I supposed to be doing? Like, we literally just figured out TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, how are we, so
a lot of our business is educating, telling them about the metaverse, telling them what they can do in the metaverse. And then if they want to make that step, then we help them with like go-to-market strategies. How can you make this happen? And then if they want to execute it, we help with execution as well, which is kind of how we got in touch with Atiba a while back. We're building these networks of developers and 3D modelers and animators to have a full library of people that we can contact if we have a client that wants to make a AR filter or they want to do a live event. There's so many platforms out there now. And so we constantly tell these companies is you don't have to build it from the ground up. You don't need to recreate the wheel. A lot of these companies already exist, and you can build upon their existing platforms to get done what you need to get done. But if they did want to build it from the ground up, well, hey, we can do that too.
Sure,
So
yeah.
Let's work with what currently exists, or if you want to build your own platform, we can do that also. So.
And that's kind of the point of the Rabbit Hole marketing arm is we're using our knowledge that we've built up from the VR arcade over the years and just being in this industry for years to make recommendations on where you should be. Because you can't be everywhere, you can't do everything as a company or as an individual. So, really looking at like, what are your overall marketing goals? What are the business goals? Do you want to create new revenue streams through this? Or are you just looking for a fun little marketing activation? And then creating a plan and a strategy around that.
I think that's what's really cool about. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna Kate. Didn't mean to interrupt you. I think that's what's really cool about you two is that you have Mitchell. I see that you've come in with a good grasp on kind of the gaming side of it, just because that's your history, your past. But then Jennifer, you come in with this whole like marketing and strategy, and that I think that one cool thing about Rabbit Hole is you've got this entire arm that is this VR arcade and this arcade and gaming experience. But you've got this whole other arm that's like you're the metaverse consultants. And I'll be honest, you're the first metaverse or virtual reality consultants I've met, which is a little bit bizarre given how quickly this has changed. Because now that I'm listening to you talk, back in we did our episode 2, Anna Kate, was that with John and Les? So our second episode, we interviewed a company called Hashed Health, and then they are big into the Web3 world in healthcare in Nashville and kind of the Southeast and around the country. But it's interesting to see the very similar concepts that you guys are taking and that they have taken in very different worlds. So, and I think that we've almost, it seems like over time, and Anna Kate and I, we learned a lot in that second episode because before then, like Web3 was so new to us. But it seems like even talking to you that we've kind of moved from Web 2.0 to Web 3 and didn't even realize it on some things. Because when you talk about the NFT side of things, I watch my kids play Fortnite and they freak out when these new skins come out and they're amazing. And then you can buy them, but boom, they're gone and you don't see them again for another year. So there is this limited quantity and this limited time that you can purchase this stuff. So I think that's really cool that you guys have such a grasp in a completely different market and looking to people that want to step into this the metaverse. And I'm just going to keep using that term for now, even though it may or may not fade out at some point in time. But it is cool to see that you guys are seem to be making it easy to step in to the metaverse and consult these people. So I applaud for what you're doing, but I would love to hear. I'm getting to a point, I promise. I would love to hear kind of your take on Web 2 to Web 3 and how that transition has looked. And what Web 3 means to you two.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we are, I would say we're still learning a lot about Web 3 as well. But what we are focusing on is if we have a corporate client who thinks that they want to do some activation in the future in the metaverse, well, that really does, you really can't talk about the metaverse without talking about Web 3 and getting the infrastructure in place within your company to be ready for the shift to Web 3. So I don't think we're in Web 3 now, but I think the shift is slowly happening. So whether that be going ahead and securing all of your legal trademarks for the virtual world. McDonald's did this last year where they filed like 10 or 12 trademarks for their virtual products. So going ahead and getting the legal side of that down, or starting the process to digitize your item inventory. So if you have a big machine, that's what you sell as your company, and you want to be taking that to trade shows around the country, you don't have to do that. You don't have to physically move that around anymore. So you can actually create a virtual version of that, a digital twin that actually works and looks like the real product. So digitizing your assets, I think, is a huge part of getting ready for Web3. And studies have shown too, if you have a 3D model of the products that you're selling online, as people shift to Web3, that's going to increase your sales and make sure that people don't return an item once they get it in real life. So little things like that. Most of our Web3 education is prepping people. Does your company need a crypto wallet? Do you need a company crypto wallet to collect revenues through your metaverse streams? So however you're selling items, how is that going to work? So working with companies to improve their infrastructure overall in preparation for Web3. Has mostly been our take on Web3 so far.
Buying their Web3 domains now before someone else buys it and is trying to hold it hostage or something, So, a lot of it is just preparing them for what is to come. But the biggest shift to Web3 is going to be for the user and them being able to own their data, and be able to control who can use their data and to be able to monetize that data, which is going to be the biggest shift. So I could see in healthcare how that could be a pretty big shift for the healthcare industry from, healthcare owns a lot of your data, and they sell a lot of your data. And with Web3, that's going to kind of shake up that whole industry as well, with the users now owning what is shared, and they can monetize it.
And even, from a marketing perspective, that absolutely affects things too, because if, all of Web 2 social media and a lot of digital marketing strategy is based on data mining, pulling data from your past audiences and what you've, previous ad sets that you've run, and using that data to fuel your future strategies and things like that. So a lot of that is going to shift to the consumer can determine what is shared with these brands and these companies. And so it's going to be up to the companies to figure out how to reach their target audiences without that information, or different ways to get that information. That's going to be a big shift that we see. Yeah.
I just keep going back to what a unique position you guys are in. And one question I wanted to ask you was, you had you said you had the largest gaming center, VR arcade in the Southeast. So you started there. So did the idea of rabbit hole marketing, was it presented to you based on all the inquiries you were getting from people related to AR and VR? It seems like this company sort of started itself, like you had to, because you were getting asked so much.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's definitely a natural progression of these people are reaching out to us because we have experience with virtual reality. And then we just saw the possibilities to take it to kind of another level. And if people are reaching out to us about it, we could be proactively selling these services too, and taking that opportunity to learn a lot too. So, VR is our specialty. That's what we know inside and out, pretty much anything virtual reality related. But very easy for us to pick up AR in the AR development side. And we're fortunate to be in a space that we can test a lot of this stuff ourselves. So before we take it to a client, we made our own AR filter. We've done events where we set up virtual reality headsets and created an AR filter to support the event and to support our presence at the event. So we like to test all of these things in-house, and we're lucky enough to have an arcade business that lets us do those things before we take it to a client and try to sell them on it. So we have some kind of proof of concepts and things like that we do in-house first, just to make sure this is going to be successful. How are we going to measure success? So if you launch an AR filter, how do you track how many people are using it? How do you know how many people have scanned the QR code to get there? So making sure that if we're selling something to someone, we have a way to measure those things and show the ROI on it. But yes, it definitely was just kind of a natural progression of inquiries we were getting. And then now we're kind of reaching out to companies like, hey, are you thinking about doing this?
Yeah.
Because we can definitely be that partner for you.
Well, a lot of people wanting to create experiences. We talked with a museum in downtown Nashville that was looking at creating like an experience. So, or people just reaching out saying, I want to create educational content. I want to do this. I want to do that. And, we are now starting to create stuff in-house, but for the longest time, we would just, redirect them to a partner company that would then kind of take over and do that for them, whether it's 360 video or they're wanting to create, like I said, educational content. A lot of our clients now are PR companies because they themselves have clients and they almost always are doing marketing for said clients and educating the PR companies on what the metaverse is and how they can be pitching these cool ideas to their clients. And then when the clients want to activate, when they want to do it, then they can loop us into the conversation and we can make it happen for them and be a good partner for these PR companies.
Yeah, we want, if we're working with a PR or marketing company that has their own clients, we want them to be able to be a good resource for their clients. So I know, and this is part of my past experience working at a PR firm, your clients come to you expecting that you know what they should do. So, I mean, occasionally they'll come to you and they think they know what they should do, but the really good clients are going to, trust your expertise. So we want to give them the tools and the resources to know what is coming ahead in the future. What are the possibilities for marketing in the metaverse? So that when they're in a client meeting and someone says, what is this metaverse thing? Should we be doing something? They don't just have this dumbfounded look on their face. They're prepared, they have ideas, and they can at least kind of hold their own until they can bring us into the conversation.
It was great. One of the girls that went through one of our educational classes, one of our courses on the metaverse, a few weeks later, she had flown to Singapore for a conference in Singapore, and the conversation touched on the metaverse, and she was like, I felt so empowered. She's like, I could actually contribute to the conversation. She's like, I knew what was going on, and it was like, okay, like that's great. Like,
it was nice. Yeah, it was a great affirmation. She was like, I could actually contribute instead of like being a passive audience member, and she was like, that was really cool. And we were like, well, that makes us feel really cool, like that you learned something and really could use it actually, in the real world.
So validating. Well, this might be a good segue into the metaverse marketing workshops you guys are offering now as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. Yeah. So those definitely are education-based workshops. They're very hands-on, where we were having kind of informal conversations with these clients last year. We decided to formalize that, make it into an actual presentation with worksheets and things like that, so that as you're going through, or as we're sitting down with a company and looking at what they might be able to do in the metaverse, we got to kind of start back at the beginning and let them know what makes up the metaverse, where are the trends heading, and make sure that they have that knowledge base before we actually get into what the strategy should be. So we have 3 different levels. Level 1 is that very like base layer of what the metaverse is, what's possible, and making sure they have a good foundation with that. Level 2 focuses more on Web3 and the infrastructure development like we talked about. So then we're getting into like blockchain and decentralization, and we hope that people do them in succession, these levels, so that they kind of understand some of those terms and we're not just sounding like a buzzword factory. And then level 3 of the workshop series is the actual strategy development. So one of our services is metaverse strategy development. We can just do that for you if you'd like, but we really are hoping that as companies go through these levels of the workshops, level 3 ends with a strategy for them. So we expect people to come ready to work. We're actually going to do some things during these workshops. We don't want to just talk at people. So we're going to really look at like, what are your business goals? What are your marketing goals? And how does the metaverse enhance that without you just throwing a lot of money at it and hoping something sticks? So we're really trying to actually help people with some insights and recommendations. Some of the big global companies like Walmart or Nike or any of they have the money to spend millions of dollars in the metaverse
to risk it
and just see how it goes. And that's great for us because we're all watching them and seeing how it pans out. But most companies don't want to just take that risk.
They're hesitant.
They're very hesitant.
And I think it's because of the unknown of it. They don't know. So that's kind of where we're trying to step in, is make them feel more comfortable with it, understand it, and see the value in it. And then maybe they would be willing to take that jump to an activation.
And do it in a smart way. You don't have to invest $1 million in a complete virtual world. Start with, if you're at a trade show and you need to use a digital twin to show off your item without bringing it physically. So all of those things, those little pieces are part of the metaverse. And so we try to break it down for people through that workshop series that, you don't have to go all in. You can kind of ease your way into it and have a plan for what your metaverse is going to look like over the next couple of years.
And where would people find out about these workshops? Like, what's a good spot to go to see, like, okay, this is how I get involved?
Yeah, so on our website, rabbithole-marketing.com. And right at the top, it says Metaverse Workshop Series. So if you head there, you'll see the 3 levels outlined. It'll give you kind of a synopsis of how they're going to go and what's included. And they can be purchased and booked right through our website there. That's a new offering, brand new this year in 2023. So we're excited to kick those off and get some people, more people in the metaverse.
Yeah. And if you go to the rabbitholevr.com, our main landing page will take you to any of our different offerings. So it'll take you to our marketing page. It'll take you to the VR arcade, or any of the on-the-go rental stuff that we do, our consultation for VR arcade operators and FEC owners, game developers. All that is on the rabbitholevr.com. So that's kind of like our main page for where we kind of host everything. So whatever you're looking for, even if you want to bring your team in for a fun team building event, come into the arcade and we can kind of give you a glimpse into what the virtual world has to offer.
Well, before we go, I want to point out that I think that you two are such a great fit for this podcast, because the podcast is called Half Geek Half Human. And no offense, Mitchell, but I'm gonna go ahead and call it out. You're the half geek. And I'm gonna say, Jennifer.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm the tech guy. That's what we tell everybody too. If you want to get into this business, you either need to be tech savvy or you're gonna pay someone who is tech savvy. So yeah, most definitely, yes. I'm the tech guy over here.
Well, you guys definitely seem like you know what you're talking about. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you guys so much for having us. And if we do have anybody, listening that is interested in just learning more about VR, the metaverse, we're always happy to talk about these things, and just share information. We could go down so many more rabbit holes, no pun intended. But if we didn't even get into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all those, sustainability behind that. I mean, we could talk about this for ages. So always feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and we appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll drop the links to some of the 2 websites we talked about in the show notes, so folks can pick that up there. And thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys.
You.
You've been listening to Half Geek Half Human.